And I'm not sure that our next speaker, Lena Ramstetter, has a new book, but she's certainly doing some really important work on attitudes to issues that divide on partisan lines, such as climate change, for example, and how interventions, including contemplative practices, may support social transformation. She's a senior scientist in the Department of Political Science at the University of Salzburg, and we're really thrilled to have you with us. Welcome, Lena.
Thanks so much, Susan, for the kind intro. Let's just share these slides. Perfect. So it's really a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks a lot, Dave, for your fabulous recap of Dominic's work. And thanks, Kurt, for introducing your research on the power of stories. And that's exactly where I want to tie in for the next 7 or 8 minutes. So together with you, I want to explore how meditation practices might reduce polarization and increase pro-sociality and pro-environmentalism. So in short, how meditation might help us to cultivate common ground. And Susan's rich intro probably already covered it, but just to remind us of the times we're in, of the state of the world we find ourselves in. We are in the midst of a polycrisis, right? In a time where multiple crises overlap, where they fuel each other, and they are inherently interconnected, so they cannot be solved separately. Think of the ecological crisis, the economic crisis, political polarization, the mental health crisis. So in search for a solution to these connected crises, it might be a really good idea to understand what brought us here, what the roots of these crises are, right? And you might know Charles Eisenstein, a philosopher, and he has a pretty plausible diagnosis, in my opinion, for what this is all about. He says that the root of this crisis, of these crises, is a cultural narrative that tells us that we are separate from each other, separate from nature, from the world surrounding us, from the earth, and separate even from our own bodies. So here we are living in a story of separation. And Kurt just told us about the power of stories, right? And the consequences, they are dire. It leads to a disconnection from what we need as individuals, as societies, as human beings. And so realizing that separation lies at core of these crises, we get to see that we are not just in a climate crisis, a political crisis, an economic crisis. We are in a crisis of being, in a crisis of meaning, in a crisis of relating. And that also hints to why most of the approaches to solve these problems simply don't work, because they are addressing causes primarily on an external basis. What we need is addressing the inner basis, our beliefs, our emotions, our worldviews, our relational capacities. And facts don't seem to do that job, right? That's what we just heard from Dave and from Kurt, that this doesn't really change the game. But we need to change the game. We have to move to a story of interbeing, where we understand how connected we are, and not just cognitively, but really on a physical level. We have to arrive at a place where we act on common ground. And that all sounds good, right? But also pretty big. What it requires is some sort of metamorphosis. And the crucial question is, how can we do that? And that's where meditation becomes part of the game. So meditation comes in many different shapes and colors. You all know that. And the two most researched types are mindfulness meditation, where you learn to focus your attention on a specific object, the breath, for example. And there's metta or loving kindness meditation, where you wish yourself and others well. And research shows that both mindfulness and metta meditation have numerous beneficial effects on the relationship to ourselves. So it reconnects us to who we are. We get better at detecting what we feel, how our body is doing, what we really need. So this practice allows us to choose intentionally what we want to do, not out of habit. And there's a lot of research that documents these effects. And they have in part led to sort of a mindfulness hype. And with it, to a questionable understanding of meditation as a self-optimization tool, an outflow of an individualistic performance society. But then here's the clue. There is much more research accumulating that suggests that the effects of meditation reach way beyond the individual. So what we see in researching societal effects and planetary effects of meditation is that it increases compassion and empathy, and with it, social connectedness and positive regard for others. In a brief experiment, we were able to demonstrate that even 10 minutes of loving kindness meditation make a change, that it reduces affective polarization. And that's pretty cool, huh? 10 minutes of loving kindness meditation, of wishing someone well, someone you don't even know. So these practices, they might help us to transform conflict into understanding. In particular, practices that involve loving kindness. And this transformation also happens on an ecological level. So mindfulness and loving kindness both increase connectedness with nature, environmental self-identity, and ultimately pro-environmental behavior. So awareness translates to action. And with this, the story of interbeing becomes more of a lived reality. So we do by far not know enough about the effects of meditation, the social and ecological effects. Lots of research to be done yet. But what we know is that there is very practical hope. These findings point into an encouraging direction. That simple practices such as pausing a moment to reconnect, reconnecting with our best intentions, wishing others well, can make a difference. Thanks so much.